Coming to us live from just outside of the parliamentary precinct in Cape Town, SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeje. Mzwandile, good evening. Thank you so much for coming to us. Really do appreciate it. Perhaps let's start here. This is going to be an incredibly unique National Council of Provinces. National Council of Provinces constitutionally represents the interest of provinces based on their provincial legislature makeup of all the different political parties that had participated in the national and provincial general elections. The ANC has a reduced majority in many provinces: KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, the Northern Cape, as well as the Northwest to a smaller extent over there. What can we expect the tone and texture to be from the National Council of Province in this administration? What was the mood like in the chambers this morning during the swearing in?
Well, a very good evening to you, Oliver, and the viewers. And we expect really the spirit that we perhaps saw yesterday when the election of the President, the Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker happened to somehow permeate this other house of the legislature, the NCOP. You would recall that this happens in the context where the parties have basically decided to form a government of national unity. So which then tells you that the spirit of working together will indeed affect all these spheres. The interests of the provinces certainly will not take a backseat. And one of the things that I think we will have to watch out for, and which the parties have spoken about, is that despite this working together that they have agreed to do, their identity won't be lost. So which means parties will still be able to speak about the interest of their respective parties, but of constituencies, sorry. But of course, we know that not everyone, Oliver, is part of the government of national unity. There are those parties who have decided that they will call themselves Progressive Caucus because they feel the consultation that was done primarily by the ANC with parties like the DA, IFP and PA were not necessarily sufficient in terms of bringing them on board. So yes, we will have the NCOP functioning as it should, and then of course the interests of the provinces being represented, but those parties as well who have sent delegates here would be able to articulate those matters which they think matter to their audiences and constituencies.
Yeah, the NCOP generally doesn't get a lot of visibility throughout the political calendar, except when really key pieces of legislature has to be passed through the NCOP. Given the split and the interest of different provinces and the parties in those provinces, should we have an expectation, at least from the sense that you got during the swearing in and the caucus negotiations between the different political parties? Do you get a sense that the NCOP will become a lot more visible in its work this term?
Well, I'm not really sure because in this instance, it was quite smooth sailing in terms of the election of the chairperson and the chief whip. And we were expecting the election of 3 people in terms of the positions that were supposed to be contested. And in this instance, those who were appointed were not contested at all, as opposed to what happened yesterday. So I guess this is likely to be the spirit of what we are going to see happen. And given that we are in an environment where there is a government of national unity and the deputy chairperson was not appointed or elected, it is possible that that is part of the engagements that are ongoing, and you would likely see what happened in the National Assembly repeat itself here. Yes, they have a responsibility to represent their interests, as we have said, and then of course to them it won't be lost that they've decided to work together, because the electorate decided that no single party at a national level will have outright majority. So whatever decisions are being made, and I think there'll be a lot more consultation in terms of passing certain pieces of legislation, because that is what the constituency and that's what the electorate decided should happen. So clearly the parties would have recognized that South Africans are aware and don't want perhaps a single party dominance, because they feel their issues will be addressed when people collaborate and consult more. I think that is the spirit, Oliver, that will characterize the NCOP, something I think will be similar in the National Assembly. And then, of course, we expect that to be repeated somewhere when the National Executive is appointed after the President has been inaugurated on Wednesday. So it's quite interesting to watch this.
Just one more administrative question before I let you go. What is the order of business from here now? We know, unlike the National Assembly, the National Council of Province has 2 deputy chairpersons. One, of course, being a permanent deputy chairperson across the 5-year term, unless, of course, they are recalled by the 90 members making up the National Council of Province. And the other being a rotational deputy chairperson, which the term there lasts 1 year, and every province gets to have a chance to have one of their delegates become the deputy chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. The order of business, where does it stand as far as those pieces of elections as well as swearing in are to take place?
Oh, well, what happened today was that the swearing in happened for the supposedly 54 members were supposed to have been sworn in, but we know, Oliver, that a party like MK had decided that its members shouldn't attend these proceedings, and I think it ended up being about 49 members that were sworn in. So that is done, and I think now the focus will basically they will take a bit of not a break per se, but the focus shifts to Pretoria next week, where the executive arm of state and then is in the spotlight, where the president obviously is inaugurated, and then after that he then himself will then appoint the cabinet, and from there then they'll come back because there has to be the opening of parliament officially, which we believe will be sometime next month, and I think that's when then parliament, by parliament I really mean both the National Assembly and the NCOP, get into serious action. But of course, now that they are sworn in, so they will be able to start to do their work, because they do the work in terms of complementing each other, independent of each other, but it is meant to really support this institution of the democracy that we have of South Africa.
Mzwandile, thank you so much for your time this evening. Really do appreciate it. SABC Politics Editor.